What's the best, scariest, most interesting internet rabbit hole you have found? I once had my home Linux server hacked while I was away on winter holiday, logging in remotely from my grandparents' house. I noticed that the server was behaving oddly, took a look at the log files, and found them truncated, so sent a shutdown command so I could do forensics when I got home. What I ended up finding really did feel like swallowing the red pill. Someone had hacked the server using a recent sendmail exploit and resold it to someone who was using it to host an egg drop Ike bot. I logged into the Ike channel that it had been holding open and found a bunch of people sending short messages like CCs or OOT. About 5 minutes in, a longer message comes along. Some guy's annoyed with a trade he has made. Someone gave him a bad set of data and he wants to make his own data worthless in return before the buyer can get full use of it. So on my screen there is suddenly a splat of information about some guy who lives in Texas, credit card, phone number, street address, and the first guy is urging everyone to buy stuff as quickly as possible before the credit limit is hit. Feeling I was ducked, I disconnected as soon as possible, left an anonymous phone message on said Texas individual's answering machine advising them to check their Visa charges, and hope that my lack of foresight in not setting up an IP proxy or anything to hide my own identity wouldn't have either the FBI or organized crime breathing down my neck in a few days. Board James started out as a board game review. By season 3 it's much more than that. Early in the 90s I reached a site on the eastern coast of Newfoundland that simply read, "You have reached the end of the internet. Turn around and go back." Apostrophe. I don't think it's the same one, but what.com. Com used to say something like "Congratulations, you have reached the last page of the internet. Now turn off your computer and go outside." Apostrophe. I found out I had a stalker from high school when I was in community college and decided to Google my name for some dumb reason. I don't have a very common last name, but there are still a few other people out there with my first and last name. I was like 10 pages deep in Google, place many do not ever go to, and I found an old tripod site that had my name and the URL followed by one of my old AIM screen names. So I clicked it and was taken to a very basic page that had a ton of pictures stolen from my MySpace and others that had to have been taken without me knowing. Things like me out working on my car or on the trampoline with my siblings in our yard. It was really weird and I had no clue who it was until I scrolled all the way down and realized it was the girl I dated for a few months in spring of our sophomore year. She had a screenshot of a AIM conversation where I said I liked you way more than others or something on it, and she took that and ran with it. I bought a rooted phone and have had to educate myself with how to use custom ROMs, the software that runs your phone. In doing so I have learned a healthy fear of all things tech. The amount of shit that third parties do as a matter of fact with your data and private info is absolutely bonkers. Background processes, scripts, permissions, and loads of stuff your phone came preloaded with. It is all there to track you, follow you, keep tabs on you, market you, predict you, identify you, and take advantage of you. Trust no one. We are being spied on. We line up for Nurse Ratchet's sugar-coated pills with each new device. It's not a specific channel, but I often get lost in the creepy side of YouTube. It starts with a few stupid videos about ghosts or aliens. By the end of it, I'm listening to stories about real people and human taxidermy. I've learned that real people are far more disturbing than any ghost or monster story. It leaves me feeling creeped out and gross but also fascinated. I highly suggest giving it a go. Every now and then I look at all the proposed inevitable long-term physics repercussions that will wash over the universe, like the erosion of Niagara Falls, the loss of gravitational tidal lock with the moon and the last star dying in the cosmos type stuff. Wikipedia. Or Wikitimeline for future Reddit. This is way more attention than I've ever gotten on Reddit, or thumbs up for all of you. But if you like my ramblings I do a podcast I don't advertise called The Unpanderers, which is kind of like this. YouTube The Unpanderers. Holy smokes folks. PSS. I love all your responses, especially the 600 million years C3 synthesis response. Appensecrets.org. Look up your legislators' donors. Then go to GovTrack. Us and look at the legislation they sponsor, co-sponsor and vote on. Surprise, I found my congressman pushed continuing a Fed tax break on soda ash. I called him AMD. His office said it was for jobs and pressure from China, but will only cost $30 million. The last time it was passed they also did an impact study. No extra jobs. Pressure. Lol. They raised their prices 60% over that 4-year period and were an extra $1.5 billion more profitable. To add insult to injury, it wound up costing $150 million as mining operations simply shifted to federal lands for the break. Who was his #2 donor? You can already guess. For cool stuff, Wikipedia's list of unusual articles. For a mixture of strange, sad, hilarious and frightening, sometimes all three at the same time. Fun to say the darndest things got me through a lot of slow times back in the day. There was one thread in particular which achieved glory when the originally quoted poster turned up and ended up performing an online exorcism on an Fster to expel the demon that was apparently making her lesbian. But in general there was plenty of gold. Flat earthers, space deniers, moon deniers, disbelief in DNA, disbelief in primates, all sorts. A few years ago I developed pneumonia. I was out of commission for about a week. My kids were at school, my wife was at work, and I was at home just trying to not stop breathing and keep as warm as possible. I saw an article about some member of the British royal family. Then I said, I wonder if any other countries really have active royal families. So I started googling and began researching the Norwegian royals. Then I found myself on the Wikipedia article for Harry Ben. It said he was a baptized member of the Christian community. Having done quite a bit of reading on the subject of religion, I was surprised I had never heard of this group. This was a massive rabbit hole. You learn about the Christian community and that leads you to Rudolf Steiner, who leads you to biodynamics, Waldorf education and anthroposophy. The bonus was that I felt like I learned a lot about something I was unaware of. The downside was that the next week I went back to work, having dedicated myself to the subject full time, and didn't know what to do with all of that knowledge or information. Subreddit simulator. It's nothing but bots talking to each other using Markov chains of the subreddits they represent. It's hilarious and also kind of disturbing. All these bots just firing off responses trying to seem like people. Gets even weirder if you try to imagine it as a physical place. A bunch of physical representations of subreddits spouting off what sounds like gibberish to each other. Undeterred that they make no sense. There's this series on YouTube called the Marble Olympics. I'm on mobile, so I'll link it later, but this guy basically made different events and puts teams of marbles through them and color commentates. The production value isn't bad considering what it is, and you will start rooting for a team. In 2012, a university administrator gave me the IP address of this old college server that held hundreds and hundreds of pages of HTML sites, MIDI files and millisecond paint JPGs linked in this little darknet. Finding something that was lost and forgotten on some old server with people's stories, comics, and poetry was awesome. Of course I lost the IP. I like to think it's still online. The Cloverfield ARG, alternative reality game. Basically when the trailer came out people were finding things which then led to secret websites, which would have to be investigated to find more clues about the movie. It's far too much to type out here, but it went very deep. This has happened with both Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane, and we are expecting it to happen when God Particle, or whatever the third one will be named. Cloververse is a subreddit for it. Here's one small example. During the trailer for 10 Cloverfield Lane we noticed they were drinking Swamp Pop, which was found as a real company in LA. People later bought 4 packs of it. With the 4 packs people were getting puzzle pieces. In the movie one of the characters is doing a puzzle, but was frustrated because couldn't finish it as there were missing pieces. It's little stuff like that which makes it fun. Another person found GPS coordinates and found a box buried, and it had a USB drive in it. Turns out the USB had some audio files on it related to the movies before they came out. Oh, and if you want to try that pop, World Market carries it. I highly recommend the praline cream soda. I was an active Mormon and researching something for a meeting. I came across a website that had great historical information and didn't at first appear to be an anti-Mormon site. I read that the restoration of the priesthood doesn't have an actual date and immediately I thought that was BS. Because since I was a child I had read in church publications all about the restoration. I could recite dates, names, places and what these great religious leaders were thinking at the time. Yeah, about that. This website showed strong evidence that it was all a lie, but I was sure they were wrong, so I set out to prove they had the wrong facts. I stayed with the church's publications, but dug deeper. I searched for source material on college websites. I found journals and other writings on archive.org. I found websites that pulled together information from a dozen sources and assembled it in a way that was terrifying to read. In 2 weeks of near constant searching I went from a faithful member to feeling sick, crying and wanting to tear my own eyes out. Then came anger and that feeling of betrayal. I spent a couple hours nearly every day for the next year doing my best to prove everything wrong. I prayed, studied, fasted and in the end I had to be spiritually honest. I had been lied to. Edit. I finally understand the statement RIP inbox have been responded to dozens of comments. I'm doing my best while pretending to work. Edit 2. My marriage ended after we both found out the truth. After reflection, we were not a good match. In the Mormon faith you don't have sex prior to marriage, so you end up with 22-year-olds that date, but don't have sex. This leads to getting married, so you can have sex, because having sex before marriage keeps you out of the temple, where you are saved. So, your salvation is based upon getting to the temple. Without the fear of losing our eternal salvation and family, the marriage crumbled. Hackers Canyon. The closest thing to a legitimate unsolved mystery I have ever found. This website has been live on the internet for over 10 years. There are thousands of pages with some really strange content, and despite the pure size of it all, the email addresses on the website are still being replied to after all this time. I have no idea what is going on with that website, but there is no documentation on it. No Wikipedia article, no big forum discussion, absolutely nothing. I have tried to discuss this topic on Reddit multiple times in an attempt to pique someone's interest enough to help work it out, to finally solve it all, but I've never been able to get anyone interested. I'm 23 now, and I've spent the majority of my life on the internet and there is absolutely nothing I've seen that has baffled me more than that site. Here's archive. 4 plebs. Orgs thread 14,030,289. An archived post I made about it on 4chan a while back, if anyone is curious. The website is discussed so little this link is one of the top 5 Google results. The cigarette review community on YouTube. So strange. One guy in particular's channel changed from a cigarette review channel to a channel documenting his fight against lung cancer and his chemotherapy journey. Then a final goodbye video. YouTube. Comusage the smoker. Selter.com. As a true blue, fully devout Mormon, I stumbled upon Rick's Mormon and the aforementioned says letter. I read the 80-page document in a couple of hours, diving deep into church history records in every rabbit hole I could find. Verified it all. My world crumbled. I left the church, got divorced, my entire family calls me sinner and apostate when all I wanted was truth. Sometimes I wish I could climb out of that rabbit hole and never put my nose in it. David Mitchell's soapbox. That rabbit hole just kept on going. After soapbox, I saw all videos of Peep Show, then the Mitchell and Webb show. When that ended I got into Would I Lie to You? Then worst of all, I ended up with quite interesting. It's a still ongoing binge.